Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Palacios, and I'm the Director of Small Business for Arlington County. Today, we're going to be talking about the frequently asked questions regarding the final report that you need to submit for your grant that you received from Arlington County. We're going to go through the next several minutes and let you know exactly what you'll need to provide and how you can do your signature and the information you'll need to include. First, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you for having your small business here in Arlington County. We're very grateful that you've chosen our community to operate your business. This has been a very tough 2020 and we feel the pain. We want to make sure that you have all access to the resources and tools that you need to survive this current health pandemic, which is very unprecedented. So always feel free to reach out no matter what time of year. You can email us and you'll see the contact information below. Give us a call. We're here for you and we want to make sure that our businesses are growing and they're healthy. And first of all, we do want to thank you for being here in Arlington. So the timing of the report, you will need to submit your final report to Arlington County between December 31st, 2020 through January 31st, 2021. We will make sure to send you reminders throughout that time right before, so you'll see some communications from us, just as gentle reminders that the time frame is December to January 2021. And if anything, please make sure that you hold on to all of your receipts. And we'll go a little bit further into the presentation and I'll explain exactly what those receipts should be and what you can submit and cannot submit. So the expenses covered by the emergency grant, this is more of a refresher. This is what you signed up when you received the proceeds back in the spring and summer of 2020. The grant funds must be used for employee salaries and benefits and/or other operating expenses directly related to the immediate impacts of COVID-19 and for no other use. Grant funds may not be used for costs or expenses already covered by any grant, subsidized loan, insurance policies of any type of coverage, or any federal reimbursement or relief program. And the grant funds must be used by December 31st of 2020. Keep in mind, if you still have proceeds available to you from the grant that you received, you have up until December 31st to use them for the uses that I've explained above. Now, looking at the, jumping ahead of myself a little bit here, but going back, looking at the required reporting that each grantee must fill out. Now, when you signed the grant agreement back in the beginning, in spring and summer, you had you accepted that you would need to fill out your final grant report. That grant report will need to be uploaded with your backup documentation to show what you use the proceeds for. Now, what I'm going to do now is actually walk you through what that final report looks like. The cool factor is you don't have to come up with anything written yourself. We provided all the details that we need, which you'll find on the hyperlink that will be sent to you beginning December 31st. Just as it was when you filled out the first aspect of the grant, the report cannot be saved. So make sure that you gather all the documentation that you need prior to sitting down and importing and uploading the information. Also, something of note that you'll want to remember is not to use Internet Explorer. The grant report doesn't work well with that, and you'll get a lot of errors. So just keep in mind to use another browser outside of Internet Explorer. Chrome is a good one, Safari. Next, as you go down, before you begin, it says, please remember to have this information below. Your grant ID number, which will be in the email that we send to you, the amount of the money that you received as part of the grant, the legal name of your business, and your doing business as name. These were all things that we got from you at the beginning of the grant, And then we want to make sure that you have it for your final report. Because remember, you can't save anything, so just gather these documents. So then you'll click on the button that says Start Report. And here is where you'll put the information, your grant number, the legal name of your business, your doing business as name, the name of the individual that's completing the report, just kind of basic information, a way for us to be able to get back in touch with you. And as you go through, you'll see there's different documentations, the number of employees as of December 31st, did you receive other funding, and how did the business spend its funds? And we'll be asking 12A is just like a general overview of how you spent the funds. And then you can go down in the description field just to make sure that what you spent your grant funds were expenses that could be allocated with Arlington's emergency grant. And once you do that, it'll pre-populate the field as you're putting in the different things. And number 13 is very important because this is what you'll click to be able to upload, whether it's a PDF or a JPEG, a photo, a GIF. This is where you're going to upload your documentation that shows where the money was spent. And then you'll sign it. You'll be able to do a DocuSign, which is what you did the first time, which is just an electronic signature. Now, I want to make sure that everybody is really clear on the different types of backup documentation that we will accept. Anything like payroll findings, copies of receipts, electronic, whether it's like Venmo, Apple Wallet, it must contain the expenditure amount, the vendor name, who you purchased the good or service from, and the date of purchase. This is really, really important. And those are the three items that we must see with receipts. And so, as you can see with the canceled check that we have here, it was sent out to Ayers Hardware, $70. It gives the date. The Home Depot receipt kind of does line items. And you can highlight the line items if you also purchase things that weren't part of the grant. And you could see how PayPal, just a printout of PayPal, has a description. Now, interestingly enough, it was a long time from the spring, summer to December and January of 2021. What happens if you're missing a receipt or two? If that is the case, we will accept a bank statement from your bank that highlights that information, the vendor name, the amount, and then the date of the expenditure. And so to give you an example, here we have Capital One. This is just an example of a checking account statement for a business. And you can see here where it's been highlighted the date of the transaction, the description. It was a WorkSafe cleaning services. $300 came out, and all of that's highlighted. And you can black out all information that's not pertinent to the receipt that you're trying to show. And just so if you have additional questions, if it's the weekend, if it's late at night and you're working on this, feel free to send us an email at grant@arlingtonva.us. We are checking that email box fairly frequently. So you could still use that if you have questions about anything about your final report. We'd be more than willing to help you with that information. We will not be able to accept any receipt that's handwritten or is not on, that doesn't show all of those three areas. Now, what if you decide to close your business, heaven forbid, but you just realize that you're going to sell, you've decided to sell your business, or you decided to retire from the business. If that is the case, get in touch with us right away. We would want you to you're still required to do that final report, whether or not you still run the business or if the business is sold. We will send you a copy of the link that I showed you right away. And we ask that you fill that out and submit the documentation just as you would if you were still in business. So make sure all awardees must fill out the report, even if you're no longer in operation. And what if you don't use all of the award? You've used a portion of it, but that you found that things weren't as dire, you didn't need to use all of it. Please do return all unused funds or proceeds back to us, to Arlington Industrial Authority, and reach out to us and staff. That grant@arlingtonva.us is the best way to reach us, and we will help you with that process. Um, because you'll have to be able to show what all of the expenditures are needed. So just keep that in mind. And that was something that you signed early on. So questions, also feel free to reach out to us. We want to make sure our customer service is right there for you. If you need anything, definitely feel free to reach out. And I know, Alex, you were going to ask a few questions.
Yeah, hi everybody. If one question I had is if I need help filling this out, is there anybody on the staff that can help, kind of guide through this process? Um,
Yes, definitely. We want to make sure that if you have any questions to call us at 703-228-0808, or you can email us at grant@arlingtonva.us. I don't want anyone to miss any of the deadlines just because they didn't understand how to fill out the information properly.
awesome, thank you. Now, back, there's been kind of several phases of this whole pandemic, right? And early on, my business, we got a small PPP loan, which during the lockdown we used to pay for payroll. And then by
Mhm.
the time the grant came out, we used that to pay for payroll. Was that okay? Even though we had some federal funding that applied back then, but we exhausted that. How does that work for in that situation?
So as long as you can show the amount that it was split, then that should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but there should not be any necessarily commingling of money. So if you used it to retain your employees during April timeframe when PPE or PPP was out there. PPE was out there too, but when PPP was out there, um, that would be like a separate kind of line item if you're working with them over the summer. If
Okay.
that, yeah.
Understandable.
Mhm.
Now, the other question I had was regard to the kind of the timing of the report.
Yes.
There's been some time passed since the payments went out, and I used all that funding. Is it possible to go ahead and submit the report early before December 31st, or?
That's a good question. No, you will need to wait because of the grant agreement that you signed. It said that that's a very good question. The link will go out December 31st through January 31st. So
Okay.
that's kind of, that's what was signed and that's what we'll adhere to,
Okay.
unless your business closes.
Okay. Or
Um,
planning to,
so-
if you're planning
or-
on selling, negotiating a deal.
exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Tara, I had another question about, IRS compliance and taxes. Is this award taxable income? Will I receive documentation from the county receiving this?
Yes, yes. The Internal Revenue Service stated that any funding with CARES Act or any grant funding you as the business will receive a 1099-G form. So you will have to have that as part of your taxes for the calendar year 2020.
Okay, thank you. And then can you show us how the form, how I sign the form? Do I have to download a piece of paper and
Oh,
submit
yes.
something?
And I will move forward a little bit to show you. So here, once you sign, it's going to be a DocuSign, which is what you did in the spring summer when you initially accepted the proceeds. You'll be doing that same thing again. You'll fill out your name, give us your email address, and then you'll do an electronic signature. But the very interesting thing about that is once you submit that, you won't be able to go back to make any amendments or changes. So that's why we ask on the front end, if you go ahead and gather all the materials and the information that you input, so that when you sign it, it's the best of your ability, your documentation, the amount that you spend, all of that is lined up.
Almost might be better to do like a Word document and fill all the information out so you have it so you can just copy and paste once you're,
Copy and paste it right in there. Yep,
yeah.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, and Tara, the other question I had was about kind of the form logistics. So could you go back to that slide that you had where you showed the last form?
Oh, sure.
My question was around, so if my numbers don't match up to how much, or if my kind of categories, they don't add up to what the final amount was, will I be able to submit my report, or how does that work right there? Is there
Yes. So
some
one thing that,
validation?
yeah, that's a great question, Alex. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that the main on number 11, where it says amount of grant funds the business received from Arlington County, must match what you put in 12B. It
Okay.
will give you an error message. So that's why it's really important for your final report that what you're stating matches up with your uploaded documentation, matches up what you're reporting in your itemized detail.
Okay. And if I'm missing anything, like as I forgot to include, kind of a receipt for, what have you that I listed on the report. Will staff reach out to make sure if I'm missing a particular documentation? I know
Oh,
is there a way,
definitely.
or is there a way to edit the application once I've already submitted?
Well, once you've submitted, if you realize that there was a mistake, reach out to staff at either 703-228-0808 or reach out to us at the grant@arlingtonva.us. We will need to issue you another JOT form to make sure that everything is accurate, and we can help you with that process.
Okay. So, okay, I have to kind of you kind of have to redo the form, so to say,
Yes.
if you, okay,
And
understand.
that's why it's so important that you do a lot of work ahead of time and have everything just perfect so that it's just a matter of you inputting the data.
Okay. And then once the form is submitted and everything is good, is there any other requirement that I'm would be missing or required to do in the future?
No other requirement. That's it. You've taken care of all your obligations of receiving the grant.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. This is good because we want to make sure that we get all this information out because we know that it's been such a long time from the spring summer to when the actual report will take place. So, like I said, if anyone has any questions, we're here to help
Right.
and make sure that you transition in a very good way. And so we thank everyone for listening. If you have additional questions, we'll also have the FAQs and more information available on our website. Do feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We don't want you to feel like you're out there alone. We have access to different types of resources. Should you need them, we're here for you. So on behalf of Alex Held and myself, we thank you for your time this afternoon.